Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Insights at DDLynn Designs, a unique twist in the ancient art of wire. This is DDLynn, and I'm super excited today to show you how to make a beautiful necklace chain. Now, just a quick note, this can be used for a clasp, earrings, a bail. The sky is the limit on making this kind of link. And if you notice, it's completely connected. We haven't used any jump rings. And I added a lobster clasp and these beautiful beads. Now, I won't be adding the beads today. It just shows you how you can add to it. I added some garnet links in between, and then I twisted some wire and wrapped it around these beautiful freshwater pearls. And as you probably saw in the preview, if you didn't, this is the center of my necklace. And I'll be adding more to it. I'm just not sure what I'm going to do it. So before we get started, if you're new to my channel, I'm going to show you how to do this all with scrap wire. I used 100% scrap wire, and I'm going to show you how to take a mangled piece of wire like this and cut it and shape it into a link. So don't throw your scrap away. So again, if you're new to my channel, I'd really appreciate if you'd subscribe. I'm super patient and very detail-oriented for newbies in this industry. It's a wonderful ancient art. It predates 5,000 years before the Phoenicians. So I really encourage everyone to look that up. It takes 1 second to give me a thumbs up. And comments and feedback. I really appreciate you guys. So please let me know also what you'd like to do in the future. So we're going to be making these little 20 gauge links, and we're going to be connecting them through the loop. Each one is going to be connected through the loop. So I'm going to show you how to do this with scrap wire, and I'm going to take a really mangled piece of scrap wire, and I'm going to straighten that wire. So you're going to learn a lot of really cool tips, tricks, and techniques to accelerate your journey in this ancient art. And I'm simply going to start to go up and down that wire to straighten it out. This is 20 gauge. And what you're going to be doing is, depending on the length of your necklace, I had to cut 65 to 66 1¼ inch pieces of wire. So for a person like me that loves to do things very freestyle, because I don't draw, I love total artistic freedom, and I don't like doing the same thing over and over again. For me, this was really monotonous, but I've made a lot of chains. Chains take a long time, so my price tag gets rather heavy the more detail and different kinds of links that I use, and if I'm firing the metal, etc. And I'll show you another chain concept I did in sterling here in a little bit. So all I'm doing is just kind of straightening this wire. I'm turning around and going up and down it. And this is what you're going to do with your scrap wire. Don't throw it away. Presuming you didn't bend it super in half and really, really tight, you should be able to use that to make a beautiful necklace chain. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my arm out of the way. I'm going to straighten that wire. Ooh, I just dropped it. So bear with me. I don't know where it went, you guys. So I'm not going to look around on the floor for it. So let me get another piece. So here's another bent piece of wire. So I'm just going to straighten it. And it's simply going up and down the wire in different directions to get those kinks out. And I'm just going to straighten it up. So here's your measurements. In order for me to make this 20-inch necklace chain, I cut 65 to 66 links, 65 to 66 pieces of 20 gauge wire at 1¼ inches long. Because I added in these beads, each one of these measures just a little bit over 1/2 inch. So that gave me about another 2½ inches in length. So in reality, I made an 18-inch chain if it was just straight links. But adding these beads in extended that length. And of course, the lobster clasp and the the lobster is the hook, and then of course the clasp to attach it to, okay? So we're gonna cut this 1¼ inches, and you're not gonna be able to probably see me do it down here because my measuring is down here, but that's okay. You don't need to see me cut. And I should get, I'm not gonna get 2 out of this piece. So here's my 1¼ inch piece. And I'm simply going to get my 6-step bail making pliers. If you haven't seen these before, there are 6 steps to them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And you can find them anywhere. And I'm going to take my number 1 barrel, and I'm going to put my wire in here. And for people that are new to wire wrapping, you don't want to feel the tip of your wire there. And I'm going to roll that wire towards me. And I have to keep adjusting my wrist because ergonomically our wrist can only turn in, say, so far. So you have to keep adjusting it. And I'm rolling the wire to the outside. And there's a reason why I do it this way. It's just the way I do it. And I'm going to do 2 full rotations until I get to here. Then I'm going to slip that out, and you should have something like this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the loop, and the cut part is facing away from me, and I'm going to put it down here in between the box spring, but I'm not squeezing super hard. If you press down really hard, you'll snap your wire. I'm only using it to hold my wire. All I'm going to do is give it a little bend. So you should have something like this. See that little bend? Then I'm going to turn it around to where the cut loop is facing me, and I'm going to put it back in my pliers with the number 2 barrel facing me, the number 1 barrel away from me. And I'm just going to line it up in there, and I'm simply going to push my wire over. And I must have cut that too long. I probably meant to do it on my 3rd barrel, but that's okay. So let me show you how to connect these. We're going to do another one. So let's take this really mangled piece of wire and see how it's all tied in together. If you go in the opposite direction of whatever you did to your wire that you decided to throw away as scrap, and you just start opening it up in the opposite direction that it was originally curled, you'll be able to start straightening out that wire. And I'm just giving myself a lot of room here to just start straightening it out. Then you can get a couple pairs of pliers. This is presuming that you didn't make a super sharp bend. So right here where this really tight bend is, it could be more susceptible to snapping, but I'm just going to go ahead and stretch that wire. See how it's straightened out even more? I'm stretching it. It's also hardening the wire. Then I'm going to get a good size, flat-nosed, flat-jawed plier, because I need a lot of, I need wider girth on my plier to really straighten it out. A little tiny needle nose is just going to be aggravating to do this with. And I'm just going to straighten out this wire. Again, this is all about taking your scrap and making something beautiful out of it. And then I'm going to show you how to connect these. So I'm going to cut 2 more pieces. Then I'm going to get, did it again, dropping everything this morning. I'm just going to straighten it now with my nylon jaw pliers. These are double actuated. Just cleaning it up. And all these little bends in it won't matter. Then I'm going to cut myself 1 1/4 inches. So I really recommend that you cut all your links at once unless you go crazy like me. So I've got my 1 1/4 inches, and I'm going to do the same thing as before, and then we're going to connect our links. Remember, I'm going to come up, turn it around, and flip it over. All right, let's do one more. And then I'm going to show you the difference when you use bigger gauges and how you can make that into an earring, a man's bracelet, a bail. Okay. So now we've got ourselves a set of links, and we're going to connect them. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that your leading wire is not sticking past your loops. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim that just right barely inside that loop. Now, because this is 20 gauge wire, I can do this with my hand, but with thicker gauge wires, you're going to need help. But with this being a 20 gauge, I can hold this with my hand. I'm going to hold very firmly. And my nail is coming right up to where this loop is. And I'm going to take the very tip of this, and I'm going to bend it in. Let's see, I'm trying to show you a visual on this. Let me use my pliers. See that little bend there? And then all you're going to do is you're just simply going to squeeze at the bottom where that bend is, and you're pushing that little bend inside of the link. And so now you have your perfect little link. So after you've cut all your pieces and created your links, all you're doing now is connecting them. So this one is a little too long. And I'm not fastidious about making them perfectly even when I cut them, because I am using scrap. Now before I close this off, I'm going to take my closed link, and you want to make sure that you're going in the same direction, that it's not turned upside down. So let me show you. You want it to be rolled over. This is the front of the link. And then you're simply going to take your open link, these are tiny, and you're just going to connect it inside that hole, inside the loop. And now you're going to do the same thing. You're going to hold this firmly and get your petite nose pliers and come as close as I can to that end, and I'm going to bend that link. And now you can see how we're starting to make our chain. So let's do this again. And then I'm going to show you different ways to use these links. Just a little tiny, barely. Just a snip. So you can use this as chain on a bracelet. Let's say you want to attach some chain instead of doing a clasp like I have on this bracelet here. You could just add the chain here and then a clasp. Okay, so we'll do one more. Now I know this one is really long. My measurements were a bit off there. So I'm just going to cut Then I'm going to attach it. Oh, I didn't close this one off. Got ahead of myself there. Bend it and squeeze it in. So now I'm going to slide this one in. Now we know that's way too long. And I'm just going to bend it, and I'm not going to do any more of these because you guys have the idea now, and squeeze it in. So when you get done making your chain, you're simply going to just attach your jump ring or whatever you want to attach, or leave this as the clasp and attach your claw, your lobster claw or hook. So here's our chain. Isn't that cool? And these are ideas of end product. So let me show you the difference in size. So we have all our scrap wire here that we talked about using. And we're going to show you different ideas of how different it looks. So here's your 20 gauge link. Here is a 18 gauge link. Here is a 16 gauge. Look at the difference in size. Huge. And here is a 14 gauge link. Now I hammered this because I could use this as a bail or a clasp for a man's necklace or bracelet. It's very, very big. And this is 14 gauge wire. When you're working with bigger gauges, you have to compensate for the length. So for example, with 16 gauged, I used 2 inches, not 1 1/4. So with 16 gauge, I used 2 inches, and I also used the second loop to make my loops. And I used the 4th step to make my hoop. And I had to use pliers to hold this because it's such a thick gauged wire to bend it in. So it's the same on the 14 gauge. I used 2 1/4 inches. And then on this one, on the 18 gauge, I used 1.75. So 18 gauge, I used 1.75. I used my second loop and to make my loops here. So I used the second step to make my loops here, and I used the 3rd step to make my loop here. So I hope that makes sense. But anyways, wanted to show you how you could make this into an earring or a pendant. So you would just make 2, and you'd have this beautiful little pendant or an earring. If you used really, really heavy gauge, this could be a keychain, and you could drop something from that before you closed it off. So I hope you enjoyed that, everybody. I just wanted to share with you how to take scrap wire and make yourself these beautiful chain links. Trying to get these all to stay here, but they're not. And just go anywhere with them. I hope you enjoyed that, everyone. Thank you so much for being a part of this wonderful, magical, ancient art of wire. I wish for all of you all that you wish for yourselves. May you have a wonderful, magical wire art day. Bye for now.